My name's Anita Steberg, and thank you everybody for joining us. I am a part of the affiliate committee of SCORE, and one of the jobs of the affiliate committee is to bring you education material, which we do once a month. We always have a brunch and learn. This is our first one we are doing virtually. So thank you so much for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, I am an attorney in San Jose, California. I'm also on the affiliate committee, and we thought it would be beneficial to bring our members and the real estate professionals in the Santa Clara County area information regarding pivoting. During the last 2 months, we've heard a lot, oh, you need to pivot. You need to pivot here, you need to pivot there. And what we have found is everybody knows they need to pivot, but they don't necessarily know what to pivot. So I thought it would be very beneficial to bring 3 people from 3 very diverse backgrounds and who play a role in the real estate professionals. When I talk about real estate professionals, I'm going to be talking about not only real estate agents and real estate brokers, but also those industries that are ancillary to the real estate agents and brokers. So we're talking stagers, we're talking loan officers, we're talking insurance and title, we're talking attorneys who work in this area, we're talking a very diverse. And so we thought it would be beneficial to bring a panel of 3 to you. And I'm going to give them a very quick introduction, and then I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. And so we have Adeline Johnson, who is a lender or a mortgage broker. She helps people find creative ways to finance. She has her own company, so we're going to get that perspective. We have Darlene Perry, who is a real estate agent at Intero, and we have Shana Anderson-Nute of Spitfire Advertising, who is a marketing company. So I'm going to ask them each in turn to introduce themselves. Adeline, will you introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. This is Adeline Johnson with GMCC Mortgage. I'm a loan officer. I've been doing this for 17 years. So seeing the ups and downs in the lending industry, it's definitely a very interesting time right now. We focus on, we're kind of a hybrid between bank and broker. So we have a wide variety of lenders that we work with. So we tend to have more flexible solutions for our clients. So that's where we are, and we're still originating. I run a team of 3, and we're out there every day trying to find solutions for our clients right now.
Darlene, will you introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Darlene Perry. I'm with Intero, based in Santa Clara, the Genesis team. I've been with Intero for a little over 10 years now, and the pivot portion of this meeting is very real to me because a lot of the tactics I use on a regular basis anyway. And while I am residing in Santa Clara County, I do work throughout the San Francisco Bay Area.
And Shana, will you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Shana Anderson-Nute. I'm the president of Spitfire Advertising, and I have been doing marketing for almost 20 years. We had the business for 18, and really what's important to me is helping our clients stand out, to helping them pivot through this new world that we're in. And I think it's a challenge to everybody, even to marketing professionals like me, because we've never been through something like this. So I'm excited to be on this panel and to talk to you guys today. So thank you for allowing me to be on.
So we are going to, so the format of today's, I'm going to ask the panelists some questions that we believe would be very popular, and that is information that we would like you to have. And like I said, if you can tell, they're all business owners, and they have a very, they're going to give us 3 perspectives. So we've pre-selected some questions. If you have questions, we're going to take questions at the end, and you could put them in the Q&A box. We have Jody, who is our SCORE liaison, is going to be monitoring those, and she will be helping us at the Q&A session. So I would like to start with questions. What do you think real estate professionals need to understand about the post-COVID-19 crisis and what we are going through now and what we will be going through? Adeline, what are your thoughts?
So from a lending perspective, I think a lot of people are starting to realize that the rates have dropped, right? So the rate have dropped, but they are starting to realize that lending tighten up as well. So this has been a very interesting year from a lending perspective. We have kind of a very low rate period and everybody flooding to refinance. And we're all inundated by, number of loans that are in the pipeline, trying to get through that. And then all of a sudden COVID-19 happened. And then with the economic, with the financial market, and also the changes of the investor perspective on what they're investing in these days, with the uncertainty of the economy, all the stuff, we're really starting to see credit tightening. So it started with big banks. They're stopping cash out refinance. So it's starting to trickle down. And there's definitely more and more that's going to come. It's very important to be aware of what's going on, especially if you're out on the market looking for to purchase a home right now.
And Darlene, what do you think that real estate agents and the real estate professionals need to understand about post-COVID-19 world that we are in and that we're continuing to go into?
Mm-hmm. Well, naturally, I feel like in this role, we're trusted advisors, right? But I feel like now more so than ever, that role has strengthened, only because the mainstream media in general tends to be a little bit confusing, very, very prompting very much fear. And I feel like we almost have to become obsessed with going to truly important and actual resources to disseminate very proactively information about how buyers and sellers are able to be successful in this market. So really just embracing the trusted advisor role and being proactive about really communicating not only to your community, but the people you serve. It's very important in this day and age, I feel.
And Shana, what do you think they should be pivoting, or what do you think that people need to understand about being in the post-COVID-19 world that we're in and that we are continuing to go into?
So from a marketing perspective, it's really important that we're meeting them where they're at. So what's going on in their mind? You're that trusted advisor, as Darlene said, you're that expert that you need to guide them through this journey to get them to where they're wanting to go. So what's on their mind right now is finances and safety, right? So speak to them, answer the questions, connect with them. So they're asking themselves, can this person that's talking to me, can they help me, can they prevent me from losing any money? Can they help me earn money right now to make that money? How can they help me through this pandemic and the repercussions afterwards that we don't even know what that is right now, while keeping me physically safe? And also understanding that the sales cycle's longer. Be patient, don't get so frustrated. I know it's a different time. We're all pivoting through this, but you have to get in front of them more often. It's about repetition, connection, building relationships, courting them so you're attracting them to you. So as I always say, don't kiss on the first date. Just because they showed some interest, it's not ready. It's not time to like jump in there. Step back a little bit. And when the time's right, then go ahead and ask for that sell.
And I want to ask you, Shana, so what should real estate professionals be pivoting towards marketing now?
So right now we are in a totally different time. Like things that we were doing in January, we can't do now. And I've seen with my clients and prospects, the hardest thing is to get their mind right? Like getting it in their head that what we were doing before is not necessarily something we can do now or not working now. So embracing this virtual world with this offline world, like bringing them together. You used to go to lunches or coffee or happy hour with your clients. You can't. So create that virtual event where you're sending them that branded bottle opener with an invitation to join you on Zoom at this time, where you've created this community on Zoom to have this fun happy hour with, and you're connecting like-minded people. You're building this community together. And the second thing is really to be omnipresent. And what that means is like you're everywhere that your target audience is. It's about like more content. Think about being the mayor of your expertise, right? So you're trying to be the one that you're like, hey, I'm the leader, I'm the expert, come follow me. But by doing that, you have to show you care about them. You have to be adding value to them. And once they find you, what a lot of people don't understand is statistically, most people are going to research you online. So what's your website look like? Are they able to connect with you? Are they able to see why they should pick you? Can they trust you? Look at all of your online presence. Do you have a COVID-19 page that's saying what you're going through? Make sure whatever they're seeing is going to help put you in alignment. And if you don't know what to put on your COVID-19 page, because I've seen a lot of people say that, just go to my website and you can check it out, take what you want, make it your own. But my website is spitfireadvertising.com. I don't know if you guys want to put it in the chat. You can look at that afterwards. And I see that Anita has a little friendly kitty who is joining us today.
Absolutely. And Darlene, what do you think real estate agents should be pivoting towards in their business now?
Sure. Well, you know, I feel like every successful real estate agent can tell you that there's several ways to become successful. And I feel like, you know, the colder approaches, while I'm not at all suggesting you should stop doing that, the colder approaches, meaning potentially sending out a postcard to a particular tract of homes and awaiting a response from buyers and sellers. I mean, it could still work in this market, but I feel like those approaches tend to sort of call to requirements the need to meet with people, and people are afraid and they don't want to meet with people. So you pivot to the standpoint of actually going into the database of people who you serve. And I joked with Shana when the first shelter in place occurred, and Shana told me directly, she's like, "You're no longer a real estate agent, Darlene, you're a feel-good agent." And so you go into your database and you reach out to people and you ask them, "How are you doing? Are there any questions I can answer for you? Is there any information that I can try to secure for you? What can I do for you?" So at the end of the day, pivoting means being less about yourself and being more about them in this pandemic.
And Adeline, what should real estate professionals be pivoting towards in closing sales now, from your perspective?
Yeah, so there's definitely a few things. One is the clients that you have in contract right now, right? Make sure you're in close contact with your loan agent and making sure that the loan is in line to close, right? It's still on its own path to close. Because until the lender funds the loan, they can refuse to fund the loan. So you want to make sure that there's no surprises there. And also the clients that was pre-approved before, you want to make sure they go back to their loan officer and make sure their pre-approval is still valid and the money is still there for them, especially clients that have low down payment, right? Because like I said, the guideline continue to change and the risk appetite for our lenders is reducing. So they want to have people with more down payment and more reserves, better credit score, secure job, lower debt to income ratios, right? So you want to make sure that if your clients are more certain areas, more, have less reserves, low down payment, you want to make sure that their loan is still secure before you actually get them in love with a house and want to put an offer down and buy the home. Also, any clients that you have that have, down payment coming from the home equity line of credit of their current home, make sure they take that money out now, because from what we've learned last time with financial crisis, the lender can freeze home equity line of credit. So they can pull that on you anytime. So you will lose your, you lose your down payment. Anything in the stock market, I mean, we all know how temperamental that is right now. So you want to make sure that you take that money out and have it in your bank account instead of riding the wave of the stock market right now. You want to borrow from your 401k. Anything that has to do with getting that money in hand in the bank account would be, highly recommended. And of course, the FDIC, $250,000 insurance on each bank is something you need to, think about, because we have a lot of money when it comes to down payment. You don't want to have it in one single institution. You want to spread that around. So that's just a few things that I can think of that, real estate agent can help and advise their client on or recommend their client to do.
Thank you. So what are some of the best practices a real estate professional should be implementing to protect themselves, their customers, and their business? Shana, do you want to start?
Okay, so obviously the best protection you can have is to do things virtually as much as possible. And I know Darlene has some tools that she'll probably share with you and is more of an expert in that area than I am. The second is there are going to be times where you're doing face-to-face. So setting that expectation up front, like what does this look like when we're face-to-face? What's this environment we're going to be in? How are we going to feel safe with each other? Because where I'm at feeling safe compared to what, say, if I'm meeting with Darlene is going to be different. So coming on board together so we're both feeling safe. When I was talking earlier about how marketing has changed so much, a great thing would be to have a little care package that you have for them. And inside is the PPE products. In January, you could not get your client to wear your branding on their face. And now we have that opportunity with masks where we can do the branded mask and they're, walking around town and they're marketing your business for you. So there's definitely some fun things that we can do now that we could never do before. And also thinking about protection. So if you're bringing them into this space and then say they do contract COVID, how guilty are you going to feel? What's the legal ramifications, which I don't know. And I don't think most of us know right now, if because you did something that wasn't protecting them, can you be held liable for that? So just be really careful right now. That would be my recommendation.
And Darlene, what are some of the best practices to keep the customer safe, you safe, and the business safe?
Just on May 4th, they allowed us to begin to show owner-occupied properties, provided that the owners are gone, and that we're going in with two individuals that reside in the same household. So those are the practical elements that we've been implementing into our showing schedule. But I feel like the more important aspects of protecting ourselves in this market is just a simple act of listening. We tend to get very excited about low interest rates and opportunities for our buyers and sellers. But at the end of the day, listening to a buyer and seller telling you, I don't want to go out there right now, I don't want people in our homes right now, is the best practice that you can implement at this point, because those types of individuals are not motivated. They're not motivated to buy, they're not motivated to sell. And if they're telling you this is not what I want to do right now, listen and respond and pick it up later. At the end of the day, being sympathetic to their situation would ultimately get you a few more referrals in the end.
And Adeline, what do you think is the best practices for real estate professionals to implement and to protect themselves, their customers, and their businesses?
So from a lending perspective, we can do everything online. We've been online for a while. From protecting their clients, especially, like I mentioned before, make sure they do the things that I mentioned. But also, more importantly is to, how do you write your contract? There's certain terms on there, contingencies that you can put on there to protect your client in case lending falls through. And it is a possibility. If you ask me, if anybody can tell you there's zero risk that this loan will definitely be funded, sure. I mean, the probability is probably, a good chance it will get funded, but you never know, right? Especially clients that are more more on the edge of what the lending guidelines are. Like I mentioned before, like low down payment, we've seen it go away. And when they pull the funding, they will pull, they'll stop funding. Doesn't matter where you're at in the loan process. So keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to ask each of you, what are the trends that you're seeing in your industry that real estate professionals should be aware of? If we've already talked about it, just, that can be a great answer. If you think that there's some other things in addition to what we've talked about, please feel free. So I'm just going, and just so anybody knows, I'm just going around as the people are on the screen. So once again, Shana, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, so I say that there's three things that we should be doing right now that we're seeing trends in my industry. So as a marketing agency, we're seeing more opportunities, like I said earlier, like adding this online to the offline. People feel so disconnected that they're loving mail. They're loving getting the packages. So if you were doing a marketing campaign for you, we're doing that direct mail, which Darlene was talking about earlier. And then we put that with some digital marketing. We're doing geofencing. So what we call warming up the mailbox. So we'll do the geofencing where we're putting ads on the phone of the people who are going to receive that mailer, and then they get that print piece that they're going to get in the mail, and then afterwards they're going to get more ads. So it's giving you a repetition of contact with them. They're getting warmed up to your brand and to your offer, so it's making it so that you're going to get better results and they're going to take action quicker. And the second thing would be connecting on a more personal level and community. That's something that's been trending for a while, and it is more important now than ever. So sending out your handwritten cards, doing promotional products, your swag with their names on it, inspirational messages on there. Work from home kits and care packages are super hot right now. Like that is probably like one of the hottest things that we're doing right now. And then thinking about community, how are you building community? So the virtual events that you can do, starting your own Facebook group, or being a more active part of a Facebook group where you know your target audience and you can add your expertise to bring it together. And the third thing that I think that we're seeing a lot of right now is like digital ads. Let's say Facebook, the price has come down. Businesses are pulling back their marketing dollars, and businesses are going out of business, which is creating a space for you to be able to come in and be seen more. And also people are on their digital device more. So there is more, better ROI for you right now. So that's what I've seen that's really trending.
And Darlene, what trends do you think we need to be aware of?
Well, I mean, I think that what I say is probably already mainstream in the 6 weeks that we've been in shelter in place. But I mean, really, when you're identifying the very truly motivated buyer and seller, specifically related to sellers, there are opportunities for you to take the listing to the constituent by way of virtual open houses, by way of virtual staging, where you don't necessarily need to hire a staging company to go in and bring their furnishing in. Although that's allowed now, the alternative or pivot to that would be virtual staging. And alternatively, creating visual walkthrough patterns through what's called Matterport technology, where you get a link to a listing, and literally it's like walking through the home to serve the people who, again, are frightened by the possibility of contracting COVID-19. We're seeing a lot of that, and it's becoming very effective in selling properties. I mean, ultimately you have to get inside, but it's a nice stepping stone to ultimately getting there and getting a contract.
And Adeline, what trends are you seeing that real estate professionals should be aware of?
I think the lending credit will continue to tighten up. The guideline with getting straighter and stricter is not going to be as readily available as before, as flexible as before. We are seeing certain market is categorized as deteriorating market sector now. So what that means is we've seen this before with financial crisis, where the lenders are concerned about the value of real estate. So certain area, they will start taking a discount on what the appraisers come back with in terms of value. So instead of counting 100% of the value that the appraiser is appraising a home for, they might give you a 95 or 90% of that value and lend your client the money based on that amount. So that's definitely happening, and it will continue. It's possible it will continue to happen to more and more locations, more counties. So that's something to keep an eye on. And your loan officer can definitely tell you at any one point what are those counties, what those counties are. And also, I think at this point, moving forward, it's important for your client to have backup plans when it comes to lending. Banks are always got to be tighter when it comes to their guideline. One of the big banks pulled out on cash out refinance, and the next one follows. So you always want to go with, have a backup plan for your client. Brokers or mortgage bankers, whether it's myself or somebody else, make sure that you have a backup plan for your client in case something happens, just to protect them.
And Shana, do you have any additional creative ways that a real estate professional can operate in what we are dealing with now, and and when I talk about now, I'm also now as well as we're continuing, because this is not over. It's not like there's a bright line that says, hey, we're out of here. So
right.
So you think of any other additional creative ways for real estate professionals to operate in this world?
Yes, so 3 ways. So really thinking about where people are at and their mindset. So Darlene and we just did this. I created yard signs, some for her company, some for my company, and we went out and we snuck around to people's houses early in the morning or sometimes at night, and we put these yard signs in that had a fun message. We added it to the online marketing by saying, take a picture with this, post it online with this hashtag. We're doing this kindness challenge, and then take this yard sign and go put it in somebody else's yard. Something I've never ever done in almost 20 years of marketing, right? But we're thinking differently now. And the results we got were awesome. People loved it. It really meant a lot to them. On Sunday, one of the signs I put out went out to 3 different yards, ending up in the mayor's yard, which I thought was awesome. Never expected that. On a content point of view is make sure you're adding value. So understanding that right now there's a lot of people that are doing home projects. So as a realtor, somebody in this space, you could be creating content and saying, okay, here's some ideas that you could do for this space or that space. This is what's trending. This is where you should be spending your money if you're doing a major remodel, because it's going to add more value to the house when you resell it. You know, thinking through those things, interviewing professionals, and then having a COVID-19 special to help them take action to motivate them. So that COVID-19 special could be a discount. You could do some packages with different service professionals that you work with and create this and say, this is for you. This is for my tribe, my community, that I've created this for you. And so you're building that connection. And then I would say the third thing is following people online, seeing what their issues are and helping them, right? You really want to connect. You're building those deeper relationships. So throughout this, I've done quite a few things, and it's amazing to me the results I've gotten. I mean, I've posted when Amazon had Charmin in stock. Who knew that like toilet paper, right, was going to be such a big thing? I sent out care packages, and I have a sample. So care packages included toilet paper with a gold ribbon. I never in my life thought I was going to send toilet paper to clients, and they loved it. They thought it was humorous. I've saved some people who were out of toilet paper, and they're posting this online. So, you know, building those relationships, parents with kids like, you know, myself and Adeline have, where we're trying to be a teacher and a business owner and all these things. I put in toys in these care packages and gotten a response where, I mean, some of them have cried, handwritten notes inside, and they're like, you touched me so much. And I'm just trying to be helpful and build the relationship. But out of it, I've gotten referrals. I have Facebook friends that have never, ever done business with me, who are doing business with me, who are telling me about opportunities that I didn't know about, who are saying, can I help promote your business? And all just because I'm being a kind human, really. So I would say those things are essential right now for you to do.
And Darlene, what are some creative ways that you see, since you are a real estate agent, for a real estate professional to operate in this world that we are now in?
Yeah, and I feel like Shana has sort of ran a gamut on creativity, but I feel like, you know, again, like as a trusted resource, and really tapping into those data sources that are very reliable, getting in front of them and then responding to your specific database based on those needs. On here in San Jose is you have to go into stores with a mask, in public settings with a mask. So one of the things that I did early on to get in front of that was I packaged up masks to my top tier clients, and instead of at that point going to their home, because I was very sensitive to how they feel about me being there, putting them in the mail, sending them out to the mail, sending them out to them in the mail, and then they have their masks already. And at that point, it wasn't mandatory. Now it is, and they're still thanking me for helping them adhere to that mandate. So just really staying in front of the trends associated with this and serving your clients, serving your community based on that.
And Adeline, what are some creative ways that you think a real estate professional can operate in this world?
In my point of view, you know, we're all kind of stuck at home with our loved ones, day in and day out. I think we all want bigger houses at this point. So go through your database, find your past clients. They might thank you if you can find them a bigger home with, you know, accessory dwelling unit where they can send their husband off the yard and not see them for the rest of the day. And there's plenty of clients that's still available. Lending is still available. These clients can still get loans, and rates are incredibly low. It's very affordable. So I think that we can turn this around and be a great year and the best year ever.
So I'm going to ask one final question, then I'm going to ask each of you a final question. Then we're going to open it up for a question and answer from the participants. So if you have questions, we will get to those. Just put them in the Q&A box. But one final question for Shana. What can a real estate or people operating in the real estate space continue to, what are things that they can do to continue to make contacts now and in the future? What are the things that you would advise them of?
So I would say when I'm thinking of that, I'm thinking getting leads in and connecting with your existing database. So I would say something that hits everything and that is important with your sales cycle is to have these 3 steps. So have eyeballs on what you're doing, like creating that content, doing these things, get eyeballs and traffic to you. And when you have those eyeballs, ask them for their contact information, which moves you into step 2, where you're nurturing them, you're connecting, building the relationship, you're following up, you're seeing where they are. That moves into step 3, where then you're asking for the sell. And if they're not ready to buy, they're not in the market, they probably know somebody who is. So then asking for that referral. So being consistent through those steps, being caring, showing, empathy through it, all of those things will help you. And it's going to be a way that you're building that relationship, which is something that all 3 of us are very focused on with our clients, is building the relationship. That's the core of this. I have put together a 10-step business survival action plan for you guys that you can download. 10 steps to help you get through this. And I know Jody's going to put that in the chat box for you. And just, after this is over, go ahead and click on that, learn this. And things are pivoting fast. So I'm going to be creating content around that too to help you pivot through this.
So Darlene, what does a real estate professional, how does a real estate professional continue to service their clients now and also looking forward?
Mm-hmm. Well, it goes back to the simple concept of making whatever you do about them and about you. Sure, you can sort of find a buyer of the property, negotiate the contract, sell the property, and move on. Or in the context of the daily functions of a real estate agent, you can actually create a role of the real estate realm, deliver it to them to the best of your ability, because we're all in this together. And at the end of the day, I feel like that one contract is nice, but how about 2 more from that, because you've gotten a couple more referrals from that buyer or seller because of the way that you made them feel. That's important.
And Adeline, how does somebody in the lending industry, what do you see that can help a client obtain financing now and in the future?
I think a lot of us that are in the lending industries know each other and understanding what other banks are doing. The goal is to help our clients to find the lending solution they need. So there's a lot of cooperation that's going on. So I know what the banks are drawing back, what are they offering, what things that they're doing, are they tightening on certain things, because there is a trend there. So for us, it's just that cooperation, knowing, hey, if we can't find a solution for this client, is there somebody else that can do this for them? Make sure that the clients can reach their goals and we help them any way we can.
That's great advice. And and I just got a pop-up regarding Darlene's connection. I understand that her internet it's going a little bit wonky, and I do apologize for that. We're dealing with one of the things in this new world. We're dealing with technology as it comes around, and sometimes when we're doing a virtual event or online event, we end up with technical issues. So I appreciate everybody's understanding. As you can see from our backgrounds are very different. We are not at the same location. We are all doing this from our houses. And so we are contingent upon what is the Wi-Fi strength at your house, and is it going wonky? And a lot of people during this time are drawing on more and more internet. So I appreciate everybody's understanding. Jody, who is on silent, Jody, do you want me to take over the Q&A, or do you want to do it?
I see one question in the Q&A box. I can start with that one, and then if anybody has any questions, please do put them in the chat box or the Q&A box just at the bottom of your screen. So the first question that I have is, what recommendation do you have to real estate agents just getting started? I'm waiting for exams to open to get my license. So someone who's new into the industry, what are your suggestions?
Well, first of all, congratulations, Patrick, as we excitedly will wait your results with you. Darlene, since you are in that industry, what advice would you give somebody who's just starting out, and they just happen to be starting out in an environment which was not even thought about 3 months ago? So since you've been in those shoes, what advice would you give somebody?
Sure. Well, just as background, I got into the industry at the tail end of 2009. And if everyone remembers 2009, that was basically the thick of the Great Recession. And the best advice I got at that time was to go back to fundamentals. And what that means is, starting fresh. You cannot start at a chapter of a seasoned agent because you are coming into an environment that is troubled at the moment. So really just going back to the fundamentals and tabulating a list of the people that you know, reaching out to them proactively and telling them that you're in the industry and that you would enjoy receiving their referrals going forward, staying in touch with those individuals, and then also creating a geographical farming strategy that will enable you to touch base with people in a specific area on a monthly or 6-week basis is what I would say. Be consistent, do it often, and I can see that being a success track for you. And good luck.
Shana, what advice would you give somebody who's just starting out?
I think that Darlene gave great advice, and she's obviously the expert since she's been down that path. But I think what we call the Dream 100, right? So who are those 100 people that you would want to be your ideal client? So figuring out who is your ideal clients, who are your referral partners, making that list, who the people that you know, or if you don't know them, how can you get to know them? How can you start getting in their sphere and connecting with them? And then of course, thinking about where your market position is and your marketing that you want to do along with that. There's things that you could start thinking about and putting into place now, even though you haven't done your exams, especially because we don't know when things are happening. So, during this time, I'm probably speaking with all of you ladies and doing the same thing. During this time, I've taken the opportunity to not only pivot, but do projects that I've been wanting to do that I haven't had time. So, because when we come out, it's like hit the ground running. And that's what, things that you can do now. I would take this opportunity before you get too busy, because you are going to be highly successful in putting those vibes out in the world for you.
And Adeline, what would you give? What advice would you give? Because even though you're on the lending side, you are also a business owner who handles teams and other individuals. So what advice would you give somebody who's just starting out in this industry?
I would say start with a good system, good process, documenting it, because when you get busy, that's first thing that goes, right? And marketing, as Shana is probably can attest to this, is consistency, right? When you get busy, first thing to go is marketing. So you want to make sure that you have a good system, good process, so that you can consistently follow that and get great results.
Perfect. And if there are any other questions, and let's see. Oh,
got another one in the Q&A box.
Oh, perfect.
Any information on how to take care of the seller who wants to sell their property, but it's tenant occupied and haven't paid May's rent? I'll go ahead and say that we probably can't answer that here. Unfortunately, that's a whole nother can of worms and webinar, I think, on that one. And unless somebody has some advice.
I think that's outside the scope of this webinar. As an attorney, I would say if you have a real estate attorney, that's a great question for them. And I would refer them to say, what can you do? What disclosures do you have to make? But that is definitely outside the scope of this webinar. If you are a real estate professional and you're asking that, you know, on behalf of your client, that is also a conversation as a real estate professional, especially if you're an agent, that I would have with your the manager if you work for a broker. So also reach out to your community. You are probably, this seller is not the only person who is dealing with that. And so this is where, if you work in a, you know, one of the, like Intero or Coldwell Banker, or you work with other agents, where you can go and work out with, talk to them about it, as well as reach out to your professional colleagues. Because I guarantee that seller is not the only person in California who is dealing with that issue. So I would refer them to that.
And I'm going to put a link in the box, score.com/edu/webinars. That's where all of our past webinars are going to be listed. And there's actually one called What the Eviction Moratorium Means to Landlords. So you may want to, you know, read that or listen in on that. And that has somebody who is specialized in evictions, tenant, landlord, all those types of things. And she may be a good resource if you want to reach out. So I'll put the link to that in the chat box for anybody who has questions. And that is Anne Michelle Francis. And she's kind of been one of our go-to people to answer questions.
It's been very interesting with the different things that come up in this new environment.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
Are there
I
any
do,
questions? I haven't seen any more come in the chat box, or anybody have any other questions they want to type in for any of our panelists?
so, and just to, I know we hit on it, but this is being recorded, and Jody will be making it available. We'll be making it available. That part is not a problem.
Yeah, along with everybody's contact information. So if you would like to reach out to Adeline or Shana or Darlene, you know, one-off, we'll have their contact information as well.
And we got another question I think is very interesting, and I think it's asking all the panelists, what is the what are you reading? So I think the question probably more is where do you go for resources? Where do you go to figure this out? Where do you go? What do you listen to or read that brings you value? Darlene, do you want to start?
Sure, I can actually answer it from both perspectives. If you're wanting to know what I'm reading right now, I can tell you that I'm just finishing up a couple college books because I'm in the process on investing, and I'm studying up on appraisals. But in the past, very inspirational books for me have been The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. And where I get my information specifically, I highly encourage everyone who's watching this to go into your podcast app on your phone and download the Brian Buffini that he interviews on a regular basis. And I would go there for timely, accurate information on the real estate industry.
Perfect. And Adeline, what are you listening to or reading that you think is a benefit, that would benefit people during this time?
So we're in close quarters right now, and you know, always we're selling ourselves and negotiating every single day. So I'm reading. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have read the book "Never Split a Difference" by Chris Voss, and he actually have a master class that actually talk about different techniques, and it comes in very handy, especially with everybody, you know, around you, and including your family members. Let's just put it this way.
And Darlene, what was the name of the podcast?
Sure. I'm pulling it up on my phone as a visual, but it is Brian Buffini Show. I don't know if you could see that. But
okay. And Patrick, if you couldn't hear it, it's the Brian Buffini Show. So thank you for asking that. And Shana, what what are you reading or listening to that you think would be beneficial?
So if you're thinking about money, right, and this is off the real estate topic, but one of the best books, and my husband has listened to this on Audible probably 100 times, is the Tony Robbins book. I think it's called Money Master the Game. And it has been exceptional. So looking at money wise, like that's awesome. And I think it's funny that I got this book probably a year ago. That's it's by Russell Brunson. It's something called like, if you lost it all in 30 days, or if you lost it all, how would you rebuild in 30 days? It's something like that. I wish I had it right here in front of me, and I just started reading it and I was like, this is hysterical, because when I got the book, I never thought you could lose something that quickly and then be able to rebuild it. So there's examples in there and different things, and some wouldn't work in these time periods, but you know, it's also like, it's a bunch of different people who put in their little 30-day plan. So you can find something that you think would be good for you.
One of the books that I just started reading that I really like is called Boundaries. And it talks about how to create a safe space, to build boundaries, and to learn to say no, and to figure out what your space is, and to make sure that space is respected, and most importantly, you respect that space. And I think it's not a book that I probably would have picked up and read 6 months ago. It would have been one that I bought and say, oh, I'll read it later. It is phenomenal. So that's the book that I am reading. And then I believe we're also all reading industry, a lot of things about our industry coming from a variety of sources.
And can I interject on that, Nita, real quick?
Yeah.
So one thing that I am doing, and I hope that everybody is surrounding yourself with other people who are in your industry, right? You know, before they were more of a competitor, now it's more brainstorming sessions and helping each other through. Every Monday, I get on a Zoom with like 20 other people in my industry, and we're brainstorming and talking and what's working and what's not working, and you know, how do we pivot through this, and did you see that? So having that community around you is essential right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, our time is, unless there's any more questions, our time is about up. And I wanted to thank Adeline and Darlene and Shana for taking time out of their day and joining us on this panelist. I hope that everybody who attended and everybody who attends later on virtually on the recorded session gets a lot of value out of it, because that was our goal, is to give you some concrete advice that will help you in your business now and your business moving forward. Shana has once again created a sheet, created a program for you that you could opt into, and that is going to be available. SCORE just put that link up in the chat box. So there's some resources there, and if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out. I really hope you enjoy this. I'm going to turn the time back over to Jody.
Thank you all so very much. I think everybody got a lot of great information out of all of that. Just, you know, staying connected and what can you do differently, that pivot. So thank you all so very much for your time this morning. And thank you everybody who joined, and we'll see you next month for our next Bring Your Own Brunch and Learn.